Wisconsin and Oregon. Nice outing for the Ducks on Friday, topping Utah for the Pac-12 title. Justin Herbert to Johnny Johnson, 45 yards for the touchdown, 17-0 Ducks. C.J. Verdell, explosive, going 70 yards for the touchdown. He went over 200 and 3 touchdowns, just 18 carries as Oregon rolled Utah by the final of 37-15. And so now we get Wisconsin and Oregon in the Rose Bowl, a rematch of the game in 2012, which the Ducks won by the final of 45-38. 10th Rose Bowl appearance all time for Wisconsin. They are 3-6. They have lost their last 3. As for this one, New Year's Day, Jonathan Taylor talking about it with Jay Wilson.
Badgers headed back to Pasadena to the Rose Bowl against Oregon. Jonathan Taylor, what's your reaction to going to the Rose Bowl?
I'm really excited. Rich tradition here with this program and the Rose Bowl. You think of college football and you think about bowl games. The Rose Bowl is one of the first things to come up. So it's just an honor and privilege to be able to go out there, Pasadena, and put on a show for one more time, this season. Still represents one of the major bowl games in college football. And, this program has a rich, deep tradition with it. And, I'm proud that we'll be able to go out there, one more time and add on to that.
You've been having a great career here at Wisconsin, and obviously some career choices are coming up. Are you playing in the bowl game?
Really, we had an opportunity to go out there this season, earn the right to play in the Big Ten championship. Didn't go exactly how we wanted it to go, but we also earned the right to play in the bowl game, and especially after that championship game, want to definitely make sure I hope my team finish out right.
This program has had a great tradition of going to bowl games and winning bowl games. How important is it for this group to continue that tradition?
It's very important. Really, when you got a tradition that's this deep in this kind of program, you want to make sure that you do everything in your power to continue it, carry that torch, and make the alumni proud.
All right. That's Jonathan Taylor. Badgers headed back to Pasadena.
They do have a great tradition of winning bowl games, 5 straight bowl victories for Wisconsin, which is the longest active streak in the nation. Again, we had a chance to see him stand on that field and watch him go toe-to-toe with Ohio State on Saturday night. What stood out in watching the Badgers?
That guy's an impressive guy in a
lot of ways.
In a lot of ways,
Yeah,
he really is. Well, one thing we know about Oregon, they're no longer the soft team I think that people thought they were or that they have been. I mean, that Utah team is a tough physical team. So Wisconsin's going to have a battle at the line of scrimmage. But what's changed Wisconsin's offense lately, you can see Jack Cohn running here. That's part of it. He's a little bit more of the running game than he's ever been, but he's a big part of the throwing game. They threw for 280 yards against Minnesota for the last regular season game and 200 yards last night, Howard. They've changed the formations up. They're relying on Jack Cohn. They can win a game by throwing for more yardage than they rushed for, and that's a big change for Wisconsin.
Yeah, they got off to a really nice start as far as throwing the football. When you thought maybe they would change some things up, they did. They really threw it early as opposed to running it. But when you look at this Oregon team right now, this is a team that wants to be physical, as you mentioned, Coach, at the point of attack. They want to run it, control the line of scrimmage. They've done an outstanding job this year, averaging 183 yards on the ground from an offensive standpoint, so they have the ability to have explosive plays, as we saw in the Pac-12 championship. But then on the defensive side as well, only allowing 108 yards on the ground to their opponents. So they want to control the line of scrimmage, and Coach Cristobal has turned this team into that. You mentioned this is no longer the team that is considered soft. They want to be physical, and they want to control the line. So this would be an outstanding matchup in the trenches.
And we say this every year. A lot of the motivation for a bowl team is, are you going where you wanted to go? And I have a feeling that Wisconsin going to the Rose Bowl is a really big deal. And it'll be a highly motivated team, especially since they lost the last game.
Yeah, it's hard not to be motivated going to the Rose Bowl. I mean, you have unusual situations where maybe you're left out of the CFP and you thought you deserved to go in. But it is such a special game, as the three of us can attest to, having been many times. It's amazing.
And if you don't know it's special because you haven't been there, it doesn't take you long once you get there.
Yeah, you figure it out.
You learn it real quick. You really do.
And the Badgers, they're never going to be accused of not being ready when it comes down to ball. That's just not in their DNA. They're always ready to go. They're going to respect the game. They're going to go out and play as hard as they can. As Coach Chris talks about that opportunity to go out and prove something else, and they're going to have a great challenge.
I love what you were talking about, too, about this defense. I mean, to me, this is strength against strength, and you don't think about that with Oregon. I mean, for Big Ten fans who haven't seen them play in a while, if you didn't watch them Friday night, Howard, you said it, 108 yards per game? rushing defense?
Yeah, crystal ball.
You don't think about that.
Yep.
I mean, that was like 2 plays against the Oregon defense a few years ago. It's remarkable how he has transformed them defensively. Lots more to come as we continue here on the show. We'll get you some hoops. A couple games maybe a bit closer than expected as conference play kicking into gear. Memphis is the group of 5 representative in the New Year's Six after winning the AAC title on Saturday by topping Cincinnati. Game had 7 lead changes. Antonio Gibson, 234 all-purpose yards for the Tigers, who are now 5-0 when playing for the AAC title in the Liberty Bowl. And there you see Mike Norvell getting fired up as his team will head on to take on Penn State in the Cotton Bowl for the first time since 1975. The Nittany Lions are. And you see the group of 5 has fared well in these New Year's Six games. Just 2 losses, each of them by 8 points. Again, Norvell moving on to take the job at Florida State. We'll talk a little bit more about that as we continue. Some news on Penn State, coaching-wise as well. Agreeing to a new deal with head coach James Franklin this week. A 6-year contract with the school, which will keep him in State College through 2025. Franklin just finishing up his 6th season at PSU. This is his 3rd trip to the New Year's Six. Of course, won the Big Ten title 3 years ago. Franklin is staying, but star defensive end Yetur Gross-Matos is moving on. Gross-Matos announced on Tuesday he will enter the NFL draft. He was a first-team All-Big Ten pick this season after leading Penn State with 8.5 sacks, considered by many to be a likely first-round pick. Gross-Matos said he will play in the bowl game. And speaking of the bowl game, joined now by linebacker from the Nittany Lions, Micah Parsons. And Micah, you guys are headed to Dallas to play in a tradition-steeped bowl, the Cotton Bowl. What do you think of your destination?
It's just an honor to be in the New Year's Six Bowl. Getting an opportunity to be able to play in a traditional game like that is a true honor. And, it's just a blessing for me and also my fellow teammates.
Memphis is a really high-powered team offensively. We know how much you guys pride yourselves in your defense. How do you see the challenge of slowing down the Tigers?
It's going to be a good challenge. Once we get a chance to really look at the film and get an opportunity to break them down and see who's their best players, I think we're going to match up pretty well with them, and we're going to get an opportunity to play our best ball on one of the highest stages.
Big picture for your program, a new long-term deal for Coach Franklin this week. What does that mean from your point of view for Penn State football?
Having Coach Franklin back for another 6 years is truly amazing. He prides himself on being here, and, he prides himself on being for us and things like that. And, having a contract the way he did, it really benefited the team and getting things done around here. So I feel like, having him, a tremendous coach, is going to be amazing for the next oncoming years for myself and those behind me.
You were named Big Ten Linebacker of the Year this week. We did not get a chance to talk to you because of some scheduling conflicts on your end. So now that we have the opportunity, give us a sense of what your reaction was when you found out.
When I found out, Coach called me, and I was just so excited. It was a true blessing and honor for me and the university to be named Big Ten Linebacker of the Year. It doesn't happen every day, and especially as a sophomore, so my emotions, I called my mom and my dad, I almost teared up a little bit because, it's a sense of a great feeling to know that some of your dreams are coming true and things that you focused on and made, dreams to reality. That's a surreal feeling to be able to do that.
Oh, great stuff, Micah. We're looking forward to seeing what's in store for you and the Nittany Lions next season. But, of course, first things first, this Cotton Bowl matchup against Memphis. Best of luck in Texas, and thanks so much for your time.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Jerry, what are you watching from Penn State in this game?
A lot of times we talk about bowl games with teams like Illinois that are just breaking through to the bowl scene, and they can continue to develop their program. I think this is an unbelievable opportunity for Penn State. Sean Clifford, get him healthy. How young this team is. They won 10 games. They have better players than Memphis. There's no reason to believe that you don't go into this game fully expecting to win. This is one of the more favorable matchups in the Big Ten bowl season. But you get Clifford back. Brett Pry's working with a young defense. I mean, you won 10 games, you lost 2. You're going to be considered a contender, I'm guessing, after we come off the bus tour next August. And so this is really an opportunity not to build a program or build a team, but build a championship.
But it's also an opportunity that from a team, they have to be able to respect this team. Yeah. This is a Memphis team. It's a good football team. You mentioned they've got better players, but they took it to Cincinnati 2 weeks in a row. And Cincinnati's a pretty good organization right now. But this is an opportunity really for this coaching staff to take the next step, have their team ready to go. But I do believe they'll be ready to go because they have some things to prove. This season, as great as it was for them, it still didn't end up the way they would have liked. So this is just an opportunity to take that next step.
Yeah, it's a Memphis team averaging more than 40 points per game. Brady White, a prolific passer. I mean, this is a high-powered offense. And Penn State's defense was great at the beginning of the year. These last 4 games or so, I mean, it's been very good, but it hasn't quite been at the level that they set earlier in the season. So maybe a little something to prove here.
Memphis.
Yeah, I think we'll get that tweet. We might not get Penn State from Mike Norvell. The reason is his status kind of up in the air. Again, announced on Saturday he's moving on, taking the head coaching job at Florida State. It's kind of unclear whether he'll coach the Tigers in the Cotton Bowl. If not, it will be associate head coach Ryan Silverfield taking over the program to lead them against Franklin and Penn State. And Jerry, I want you to expand a little bit on what you were saying. I know you believe that kind of from the matchup point of view, this is a game you kind of need to win just because you don't want to be a team that loses to the group of 5?
Well, I think Penn State's in this box, right? Again, they're in the East Division, right? I mean, we've seen Ohio State. You basically have to be perfect to win the East Division these days, right? It's so competitive. So here's the situation. Your quarterback's been banged up. He's coming back. You have better players than them. Rever, I like the way you described the defense, talented, but played better during the early part of the season. It just seems to me, Howard, that this is a perfect setup for a team that's 10-2. You can be 11-2, and you can be right in the talk of the conversation when they come back in the fall.
Yeah, get those young guys ready, get them some valuable reps, get your veterans healthy as you prepare for this. This is a big-time opportunity, I think, for this team to continue to build their roster as well as far as experience is concerned.
Not to mention the distractions on the Memphis side. Yeah. Is he going to take me? Can I get the job? I mean, the staff dynamics of when a head coach leaves, to say it's a distraction is a little bit of an understatement. I mean, everyone has their own personal agenda, and so it's hard to get a team ready under
early signing period right around the corner.
That's right, early signing period.
A lot going on.
A lot going on.
A lot happening.
Some of those early commitments will wind up in Florida State. I mean, there's endless drama, if I will.
It is kind of a shame because when you make a game like this one, when you're at one of the group of 5 teams, you'd wish that kind of everything was focused on that. And instead, there's a lot of talk going on around what was a... Back on the big shows, we continue to take you through the Big Ten's bowl matchups. The Michigan Wolverines will look to right the ship after falling to rival Ohio State for the 8th straight time in their regular season finale. It was a 1-point game at the end of the first quarter before the Buckeyes started to pull away with 2 straight TDs late in the second and, of course, poured it on in the second half, scored 4 more TDs, piled up nearly 600 yards of offense as they registered their second straight blowout against their rivals, 56-27. But Michigan could ease some of that pain with a win over Alabama, the VRBO Citrus Bowl, the 5th ever meeting between these two programs. They have split the 4 all-time meetings, 3 in bowl games, and then Bama won the last time they played, their only regular season meeting 7 years ago. Alabama, of course, not in the college football playoff. This is the first time in the brief history of that event that the Crimson Tide have not made it. Wolverines will have Josh Uche in that game, though it will be his last game in the maize and blue. Michigan star linebacker announced Wednesday he will forego his final season of eligibility and enter the NFL draft. Uche, leading the Wolverines with 8.5 sacks on the season, was his second-team All-Big Ten pick by the coaches. Coach, I know you think this is a game where we can learn a lot about Michigan. Why?
Well, I think you can look at both sides. Obviously, defensively, they've struggled against some of the best opponents that they've played since Don Brown's been there. We can assume maybe that Alabama's got a really good offense or a really talented offense. So that's going to be interesting if they can eliminate and minimize the explosive plays. That's really what's hurt Michigan a lot of times when they're in man coverage. Now, Don Brown has certainly adjusted it. They've made some progress in some other parts of their defense, but they still have to hold up against a really talented offense. I also think it's a little interesting on the other side of the ball. You look at Michigan's offense. I think what Josh Gaddis has done, he's got time, he's put it in, and you want to call it, Howard, the West Coast spread, because Jim Harbaugh has certain concepts that he's always run that he's kind of implemented in that thing. So I think both sides of the Michigan scheme will be interesting to watch.
It'll be interesting to see what happens in the coming days as far as Alabama is concerned, to just see who exactly is going to play in this ball game. Listen, they have 3 top-end elite receivers that are projected to all 3 be potential first-round draft picks when you look at Smith, Judy, and Ruggs. So they're in a different situation. Are they going to want to sit out this bowl game because maybe it's not as meaningful as their previous trips to the college football playoffs? We'll have to keep an eye on that. But they're a very talented team. I think we'll start to find out some things in the next coming days, whether or not they're all going to play or some will sit out.
Yeah, the timing of the thing is interesting. I mean, we're going to find out about a lot of guys, not only the Alabama guys, but the timing of this is interesting. I think we're just going to get into the time of the year when guys are going to start pulling out.
The mindset on Alabama is fascinating because you add in the fact they're not in the college football playoff, and then for those who haven't been following, I'm sure most people who follow college football know, no Tua Tagovailoa,
right.
A serious hip injury. They played without him in the Iron Bowl and actually rolled up a pretty good game offensively. But then you mentioned, part of that is Smith and Ruggs and Jerry Jeudy. The receiving corps is phenomenal. Will those guys want to be a part of this? We've seen Michigan guys in the past decide they don't want to play in the bowl games, so it's pretty interesting, guys.
And it's the matchup, Don Brown's defense. If those 3 guys play, obviously those man-to-man matchups take on a whole different attitude.
Yeah, I think they'd have to play a lot of zone against this team.
Be interesting.
Yeah, those 3 don't play. They are a very different team. They're
Najee Harris
dramatically
running the football would also be an issue.
Pretty interesting to see what we hear in